if I had to summarize what exactly it is that I do on this channel and what's made it grow as quickly as it has, I would say that it is consistently documenting a fascinating historical event, and that is the rapid collapse of the Liberal Party of Australia. It's becoming apparent to everyone that it is very much on shaky ground at the moment, and that there is a real sense, looking at the Liberal Party, that it is facing doom and destruction. And what we've seen over the last 2 days in statements from Liberals and revelations today from The Australian when reporting on internal feeling within the Liberal Party, it seems that the Liberals themselves also share that sense of impending doom for the party. Now, for those of you that follow this channel regularly, you'll remember a couple of days ago I was talking about how there was a very messy party room meeting for the Liberals, where essentially the moderates had one of their members stand up and tell Hastie and his new right faction that he basically didn't have the numbers to challenge Lay within the party. And it was kind of, at least how I thought about it and how you guys discussed it in the comments, is that it was a bit of a slapdown of this new right movement that Hastie's putting together, that he doesn't really have the numbers within the Liberal Party to launch any sort of leadership bid, at least for the time being. But it seems that in the aftermath of that meeting, things within the Liberal Party have continued to get even messier. And the evidence of like factional butting of heads kind of became apparent 2 days ago when James Paterson gave what I would consider a very concerning speech to a group of Liberals. James Paterson, if you don't know, is the shadow finance minister and a senator from Victoria. And he is very much of the conservative build of a Liberal politician, somebody who is a member of the National Right faction, along with folks like Angus Taylor. But he has become a member of Lay's inner circle and is a key defender of her. And I would say most likely he's not so right-wing that he can't see the writing on the wall when it comes to the Australian political scene. So he is a key supporter of Lay, and he kind of adds a sort of legitimacy to her inner team, having somebody that is very much a member of the hard right faction being close to her, but also somebody who's pragmatic enough to not try and undercut her in the way that Hastie or Namatjinpa Price have. So very meaningful member of Lay's shadow cabinet and a figure in the Liberal Party that people tend to listen to, whatever faction they're from. And the speech that he gave, this keynote address that he gave to other Liberals, was very concerning, I imagine, if you are a Liberal, because he was talking about trying to shut down the idea of people in the party discussing breaking away from the Liberal Party. Paterson basically made the argument that a split within the Liberal Party, two new political parties being born, where moderates are in one, conservatives are in the other, would be a complete disaster for all right-wing politics in Australia. Basically comparing it to the 1950s split between the Labor Party and the DLP, which saw Labor out of power for more than 20 years. He also tried to stamp down on this idea that some Liberals are running with, this idea of like a Reform UK style of politics, like what's happening in the UK. You have Reform very much replacing the Tories as like the go-to conservative option. Paterson basically making the argument that in Australia, voting is compulsory and extremism like that will not work in this country. Okay, so a few things there. First of all, Paterson has just straight up confirmed that there are voices within the Liberal Party that are calling for an actual formal split between the moderate and the conservative factions into a whole new political paradigm in Australia. And not only that, apparently it is serious enough, or it is being taken seriously enough within the party, that he felt the need to give a public speech talking about how much of a terrible idea it was. So clearly, it's being weighed up in the Liberal Party room that it's a better idea to get this out in the open than just to let it keep festering, which implies it's probably being taken pretty seriously. So yeah, not a great sign that somebody in Lay's inner circle felt the need to go out and give a speech like that. But we didn't really have any details as to who might be discussing a split within the party or what the exact specifics of a split would be. But then The Australian reported this morning that it had spoken to an MP under the condition of remaining anonymous about some of the specifics and what this split might actually look like. So this anonymous MP from the Liberal Party, speaking to the Australian, basically said that there was a proposal made by Matt Canavan. Matt Canavan, kind of the face of opposing net zero, the face of the bordering on extreme right within the coalition. That Matt Canavan, the senator from Queensland for the National Party, made a proposal after that party room meeting where Hastie was slapped down, that if 7 disaffected members of the Liberal Party in the House of Reps were to defect to the National Party, then the National Party would become the official opposition and become the senior partner in the coalition. Let's pause for a second, suspend our disbelief, and try to not point out the fact that that is the stupidest fucking idea ever. The math there does work, and it's within the realm of possibility. If you look at the lower house, 28 members of the Liberal Party, 15 members of the National Party. If 7 MPs from the Liberal Party were to defect to the National Party would have every right to claim that it is the official opposition, and from that position be able to negotiate for a much more beneficial coalition agreement, one in which potentially they are the senior partner when it comes to deciding policy. Okay, so let's assume that there are 7 Liberal MPs, and I don't think that's impossible. There are 7 Liberal MPs who, behind closed doors, are talking about the possibility of defecting to the Nationals for the sake of forcing the coalition to become, I don't know, some anti-net zero fucking nutcase party. You know what's really concerning about that? It doesn't seem like it's impossible that there are 7 members of the Liberal Party that are stupid enough to try some bullshit like that. Or at a bare minimum, use the threat of that to try and leverage policy decisions. Now, beyond that, do we have any face we can put to these sorts of claims that are being made, aside from just some anonymous Liberal talking to the Australian? Well, we do. We have Tony Paterson. He is a Liberal MP from South Australia, much more of the conservative wing of the party, and he was willing to go on the record and say that while he wouldn't confirm the specifics of if some MPs in the Liberal Party were willing to defect to the Nationals, he did say that a lot of discussions were happening in the party as to ways they could possibly restructure the entirety of the coalition. And one of them he talked about is that just confirming to the Australian directly that there are discussions within the Liberal Party about the idea of a Liberal National Party merger on a federal level, akin to what currently exists in Queensland. So via the Australian, we have an anonymous Liberal MP saying that there are people within the party just entertaining the idea of a defection to the Nationals to make them the senior partner within the coalition, despite how fucking ridiculous that sounds. And then on top of that, we have a Liberal MP on the record talking about how there are many things being considered when it comes to restructuring the coalition, including apparently discussions behind closed doors about the idea of the Liberal Party just absorbing the Nationals, which also seems like a fucking nightmare scenario. Do you know what happens if every National MP and Senator suddenly becomes a member of the Liberal Party? The Liberal Party becomes a hell of a lot more right-wing than it already is, which sounds impossible, but actually think about it. Could you imagine who would have been elected leader of the coalition if it was a unified party room voting on that? Susan Lee and the moderates would have no chance whatsoever. Now, in the Australians' reporting, they're not talking to moderates nearly as much as they are conservatives, but they did report that conservative MPs were saying that these sorts of discussions about a new political party or a new form of coalition, they only really kicked off Because apparently, and this is just according to conservatives, there isn't a moderate source to confirm this, that conservatives are claiming members of Susan Lay's inner circle in the moderate wing are genuinely talking about the possibility of a split from their side, the idea of a different moderate centre-right sort of party, which I kind of think just points to, and the Australian themselves said this in their reporting, that there is a despair within Susan Lay's inner circle that even they, according to conservatives, are considering the possibility of a party split because they see how hopeless things are at the moment. I want to think about the reality of this actually happening. If Hastie and his band of merry conservative dipshits do go over to the Nationals and try to seize control of the coalition that way, well, the National Party will essentially become not a rural country party. It'll become a very specifically non-inner city, extremely conservative party that will essentially try to run candidates everywhere. And that, without some sort of preference flow deal, could literally destroy the Liberal Party as we know it today. What a sick parliament this could turn out to be. If the National Party is the official opposition, a party that has not, since 2004, gotten more than 5% of the vote nationally, if that party seizes on the benefits of the electoral system to become the official opposition, I think it will prove that old saying true. This idea that if a conservative is forced to choose between democracy and conservatism, they will always abandon democracy.